Hello YouTube, this is Frugal and this is the Virtualfly TQ6, the new 6-axis throttle quadrant from Virtualfly, the people that make Yoko The Yoke and Ruddo the rudder pedals. Let's get the disclaimers out of the way. I am not sponsored by Virtualfly, I'm not endorsed by them, I was not paid by them. They have said subsequent to me receiving this unit that I can keep it. That doesn't in any way affect my opinion of this. It's incredible. Anyway, so I got this about 4 or 5 months ago. It's just gone up for pre-order, I think. I think they start shipping them any day now. It's not cheap. This is 540 euros, but it is without a doubt amazing. It really is truly amazing. On the surface, it's pretty boring. It's just a throttle quadrant. Why would you want to spend that kind of money on a throttle quadrant? Well, the reason is the construction quality on this is phenomenal. Same as with Yoko The Yoke. Everything here is metal, which makes for a really reassuring feel. And it's also silky smooth, and that smoothness and tension is adjustable on both sides, but we'll go into that in a second. You have 2 throttle levers, 2 prop levers, 2 mixture levers. Each set of levers are at a different height, so if you're in virtual reality or you're just not looking, you can feel which levers are which based on the height and also, of course, the shape, just like in the real aircraft. The cool thing with this, and I've not seen this on any other simulator throttle quadrant, is if we get down the bottom of the range here, so let's pull the power back. So we're at minimum power now, and now I'm in beta range. There is a very, very forceful detent there, and you can pull through it into the beta range. Same on the props, pull them back down to minimum, and then you go into feather. Same on the mixture, pull it all the way back down to lean, and then cut off. Great stuff. Never seen that before, love that feature. I'll get on to what that's like to use in the sim in a bit. On each side of the TQ6, there are friction adjusters, and these are wild. You can make this thing very, very stiff. So if I turn this up here, now I've made this really quite stiff. Look, I can actually move the throttle quadrant by pulling on the levers. It's really crazy stiff. So if you're one of those heavy-fisted guys who likes to really put in some exertion to move the levers, you can set this to do that. However, you can also do this. This is crazy. I thought I broke this when I first got it. Look, if I undo this, about there. Watch. No, a little bit more. It's going to be about there. Look. Up. No tension at all. So you can completely adjust the tension on these from crazy lift the desk off the floor tension to absolutely no tension. You have 2 of them. There's one on the right hand side for these levers and one on the left hand side for these levers, so power and RPM, which is pretty cool. It fits to the desk with this handy dandy bracket, which is included in the price. I know GoFlight, for example, charge you to get an extra bracket. This one is included in the price. There are 2 places to fit this. You can mount it to some holes on the bottom of this metal box, or you can mount it to some holes on the back. I mounted it to the holes on the back, which means it hangs in front of my desk like that. So I can reach over and get them in front of my desk. I could have put this on the bottom and then it would have strapped on top of my desk as opposed to in front of the desk. I just preferred it this way. Single USB cable connecting to your computer, not USB 3 or anything fancy like that, just standard USB 2 cable. And that's really all there is to it. Let's talk through what this is like to use. First of all, perhaps the biggest killer feature for me is these detents and the ability to go into mixture cutoff or feather the props or beta range on the power levers. These are a little tricky to set up depending on the simulator you're using and the aircraft you're flying. So at one extreme you have something like the majestic Q400-8. That thing is great because it has its own configuration tool, and in that config tool you can say max power, min power, idle power, full reverse. So you can set those things in that aircraft's config tool and they work like a charm. Trying to do that, however, on something like the PNDG 737, not so easy. Not so easy to achieve, in fact really quite tricky. Ended up having to use FSUIPC and setting maximum and then center and then minimum, and saying that it did have a reversing range. Took a lot of trial and error. Same with the other levers. Bear that in mind. You're going to have similar issues no matter which aircraft you try, unless it's got a custom config tool. Now, a problem I always have with all throttle quadrants is spiking. That I will start to move these and they will go spike, 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 spike. I did have that problem with these initially, but found that if I calibrate them properly, and it's a little bit tedious, and maybe this is because these are pre-production units, hopefully that's the case, but I found in my case, I had to go into Windows calibration, calibrate the axes whenever I rebooted the PC before I went flying. Not a big deal. If you're going to be flying for 3, 4, 5 hours, it's not a huge ordeal to spend 30 seconds and calibrate an axis, but bear that in mind, I did have to calibrate. Also found that when I didn't do that calibrating in sim, not using FSUI PC, but using the in-sim control bindings helped as well to make sure there are no spikes. As long as you're doing one of the calibration methods, I found 0 spikes at all. The other problem that I typically have with throttle quadrants of any kind is if they have multi-engine controls, like what this one does, it's very hard to keep those two in sync. So you'll feel like you're reaching over and pulling them both up the same amount, and typically in an aircraft like the 737NG, you'll see one of the engines a little bit higher than the other. This doesn't alleviate that. Unfortunately, that's just the nature of the beast. So you still get some discrepancy here, but because of that friction adjustment on the left and the right hand side, it's very easy to set a good amount of friction to allow very, very fine control of a single lever if you do get them a little bit out of whack. And it's not unusual in a real aircraft either for the two levers to not be exactly the same as you move them. So bear that in mind. You know, other than that, there's not really that much more to say. It's a throttle quadrant. It's a bunch of levers that do the job of moving virtual things in the cockpit. I guess the question is, should you spend 500 euros on this when you can go and get the Cytec ones if they're available? I understand they're out of stock, or the CH Products ones, or just go and get a throttle quadrant from a HOTAS and use that. Should you really spend $500 on these? I can't answer that for you. If you have that kind of available income and you want things to be as real as it gets, then yes. You know, comparing other high-end throttle quadrants I've used, like the GoFlight TQ6, the GF TQ6, which I love and adore, this is just more lovable and more adorable. In a big way, very much so. This just feels a whole lot more refined, a whole lot more developed, a whole lot more polished. I love this. I think if I had to go out today and spend $500 on a throttle quadrant, you know, personally, I'm not sure I would. I think if I were training to fly for real, absolutely I would, because these feel as real as it gets. And you can certainly imagine these paired with the Yoko The Yoke and paired with even Virtualfly's panel system they have would make for the most realistic in-home simulator experience you could possibly imagine. But the call is really up to you. All I can really tell you is, of all the throttle quadrants I've tested, so I've tested CH, I've tested Cytec on this channel, tested GoFlight on this channel, tested numerous Cytec on this channel. I've got Thrustmaster Warthog as well, which has a dual axis throttle quadrant as well. Of all the throttle quadrants I've got, this is without doubt, beyond any shadow of a doubt, the absolute best there is. More information at the Virtualfly link in the show notes below. If you want to check it out for yourself, leave me a comment in the comment section below about what you think. And until next time, my name is Frugal, and I'll see you all very soon.